Good morning. You know how all week we have to really rush through breakfast? We're not going to rush today because today is Sunday. And my wife and I on our, I guess you call the daily living dial, we turn that right down to relax and sometimes even to lazy. And keeping with our theme, what's in the fridge, we had a slow roasted pork belly last night. Oh, delicious. If you've never had pork belly, it's about as close as you're going to get to heaven without dying. It's the number one comfort food in my book. If you're worried about the fat content, you're not going to get close to heaven. But this morning we're going to use some of that leftover pork belly, and I'm going to cook it in maple syrup. Oh, if you've never tried that, try that. Oh, it's like, oh, I don't even know how to explain it. It's that good. But also what I want to show you is how I make hash browns. You know these people that they get their potatoes, they peel them, they grate it, then they have to wash out all that starch, and then they have to wring it out. Too much work. We're on lazy mode, remember? Then you still have to cook it, and it takes a long time to cook because it's raw. I think a lot of people do know this trick, but if you don't, this is a neat little trick. The other thing I want to show you is how I do poached eggs. And poached eggs is probably my favorite way to have eggs for breakfast. But you know, that pot, the one pot, put some vinegar in there, stir it around, drop the egg in one at a time. I don't think so. I'll do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 eggs at a time. They might not look quite as nice as what you might get in a restaurant, but hey, you're going to do them all at once. I'm going to go build a fire. Let's go inside and cook some brekky. So when it comes to the potatoes, I learned this when I was about 15 in a restaurant. They overcooked a lot of baked potatoes. Not overcooked them, they just cooked a lot of them. And we don't even peel these. These are already cooked, so there's not a lot of moisture in there. If you use raw potatoes, there's lots of moisture, and it kind of, or pretty much should be removed. But this is all I do. This is already a cooked potato, a lot less moisture. And just very quickly, have a look at that. There's no peel in that. How cool is that? I've got 2 potatoes here and all I did with these is I put them in the microwave for 5, 6, 7 minutes. So it's almost the same as baking in an oven. You'll find that in the oven, they'll be slightly drier, so they might work a bit better. Now, this is your lucky day because today, I'm actually doing an experiment that I've never, ever done. We're going to put the potatoes in there, and there's still a lot of moisture in these potatoes. And I'm thinking that if I can utilize that moisture to get these to stick together better, why not? I've got some corn flour. I've never put corn flour in these before. I'm just hoping it's going to bind it and make it kind of sticky and gooier and more delicious. So I've got about a tablespoon of that. And I also like onions. I've already pre-softened these onions earlier this morning. I'm going to throw these in there because I love the taste of onions in the potatoes. And just give that a mix. Oh, excuse me, salt. I've seen a lot of recipes where they say don't put salt in your hash browns. Mine are pre-cooked. I put the salt in. I'm thinking maybe it's just going to pull out that moisture a little bit more, but then it's going to be thickened by my corn powder, my corn flour. Okay, mix that up. I don't think you want a huge mixed job there. And I've got just a little ring. I've also got a little pie plate there. I'm going to try both because, again, it's an experiment. I don't know how hard or light to pack these. I'm going to pack them somewhat. Let's try the, actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to just really quickly spray that with oil. All the potato that's going into that little pie plate. It's a lot of potato, at least for me it would be. But I just want to see how it comes out. Which one's going to work the best? Now I've got a plate. I'm going to put these on. Oh, quite nice. Now I would go straight into the fry pan from that, but we don't have that luxury this morning. I'm going to take that over to the fry pan and just flip it over. But let's make one more of these. The hero this morning is the pork belly that we cooked last night. And this is going to be actually cooked in maple syrup. Now you're going to love this. For me, this is dynamite. So you can cube this, slice it. You can even chop it up if you like, but I guess I'm going to try and slice this up neatly. And it's going to slice very nicely because it's been in the fridge all night, so it's kind of hardened up. It's going to slice extremely nice. And it's even still got that crackle on there. All that's left now is to get over to the stove and start cooking this. We're going to start with the hash browns. We're just going to start, and I'm going to use butter, because butter kind of burns fast, which my way of thinking is going to create a nice crisp crust on my hash browns. For the pork belly, I'm just going to pour in some pure maple syrup, not the fake stuff. I'm going to tell you one of my little secrets. Every time I make anything sweet, I put in just a pinch of salt. I'll probably do that a little bit later. You can overdo it with the salt, but it just seems to add something. Let's start off with, now see, that's not working like I want. Oh yes, very nice. Actually better than I thought. Don't want that too hot. Want to cook long enough to get crispy. My maple syrup bubbling away, and as that bubbles away, it'll get thicker and thicker. We wanted to turn that into a gooey mass that's going to cling to the pork belly. Oh gosh, it smells so nice. Mind you, I love maple syrup. Kind of grew up on it. Maple syrup comes from Canada and I think America. I think of the northeastern place in the northeast over there, from maple trees, and all they really do is, I think they boil down the sap of the maple tree. I gotta say, at this point, the experiment with the corn flour seems to be working rather nicely. Super happy with the way these are holding together. I'm not sure if you can see that. Now the bubbles at the bottom of the pan are just starting to lift off from the bottom, and I think you can see the steam. So for me, that is just about ready. Like I said, you do not want the water boiling. And I've got these neat little things. Actually, my wife found these somewhere, I don't know where, and they work beautifully for holding the eggs together. And although they don't look like they do in the restaurant, they're still going to taste the same. And really, do you think I'm going to worry too much about that? I don't think so. That for me is a huge, my wife and I would split that, but let's make this nice and pretty. With the eggs, I use one of these. Just a slotted spoon, give it a bit of a drain. Look at that, nice and runny, maybe a tad bit too runny. Now how nice does that look?